Well, I've just wrapped up day one of the Pivot Roundtable Summit on this, the second anniversary of the Life Beyond Clinical Practice podcast. And I'm so overwhelmed with gratitude because the speakers that presented at the session today wowed me. And I know that their sharing of their journeys and insights was so inspirational to the audience, and to the audiences it will be shared with post-summit. So I had to hop on and record this episode to share with you some of the nuggets, the common threads that came out of today's session, which was themed reimagining what's possible for your career. In fact, finding the courage to reimagine what's possible for your career. And today we had two pivoted clinicians who shared their own journeys of what it took to step into a more fulfilling career. Jaco Coetzee and Leandre van der Merwe both shared their journeys out of clinical optometry and now into roles that light them up. But you know what was the most surprising common thread? Both of them said the same thing. They were relatively happy in their clinical careers, but at the same time, they knew that something was missing. They knew that there was more out there. And they took the brave decision to step into the unknown and carve out a new career path for themselves so that they could not just be happy, but be fulfilled. And those are two different things. So my first question to you today is to examine whether you are just happy in your career, content, you're getting your paycheck, it's familiar, or whether you are truly fulfilled. Because when you are fulfilled, it means that you are aligned with purpose, another common theme that came out of our two guest speakers today. And it means that you are living into your full potential, your full self, bringing all of what you have, your best value to the world, and not being kept or constrained by the position that you find yourself in. So I just want to share 3 or 4 nuggets that came out of today. The first is on the path to professional growth. You have to move past doubt and uncertainty. 2 real hurdles you will encounter. Firstly, doubt. Is this the right move? What if I make mistakes? What if it doesn't work out? Well, to be quite honest, if you focus on the what ifs, they keep you stuck. You got to move past fear and step into faith, past that uncertainty that I don't know what's on the other side. Because in reality, you'll never know fully what's on the other side until you step into it, until you expose yourself to this new world of, pivoting your career in a different direction. So moving past doubt and uncertainty takes you on a path not just of professional growth, but also of personal development. Jaco cited, learning to communicate better, things we do naturally as healthcare professionals, but you realize in the corporate environment, if that's where you pivot into, or in other spaces, how much more critical being able to communicate effectively, clearly, convincingly, so that you can influence people, dependent on the nature of your position, becomes possible. And another nugget from Jaco is that he said that the best opportunities come when you ask yourself, what else is possible? Such a powerful question. What else is possible? Those 4 words, I challenge you to reflect on them this week. That if where you are has satisfied you, has served its season for now, you've exhausted your personal and professional growth in that space, it's time to ask yourself, what else is possible? So that you can step into a level of growth that uncovers potential maybe you didn't even realize you have, opens up opportunities for you never anticipated would have been in the realm of your professional domain. But if you're brave enough to step into that pivot path, You will explore a whole new world that brings a whole host of growth, networking, expansion, bigger thinking. The list can go on if you ask yourself, what else is possible? Then an insight from Leandre, which was echoed by Jaco, is that you can be happy in your career, but not fulfilled. I mentioned this earlier. Are you happy or are you fulfilled? And even if you are fulfilled, is there next level growth that you need to step into? So maybe you're fulfilled now, but you know that there are other areas of professional expansion you want to delve into. Then that calls for another pivot, a purposeful pivot, not an irrational pivot. I don't advocate for that at all. These are not decisions you take lightly. Something else we discussed today in the summit. Pivots are big, life-changing decisions. And so they must come from a deep why, a deep motivation and sense of purpose beyond just changing your reality, beyond just comforts and convenience, beyond just titles and paychecks. They must come because you have a real clear reason as to why you need to move into this next season. When I immigrated to Canada and I thought, I know I want to impact healthcare in a different way. I can't continue on the academic path that I was on, at least in the same shape and form that I had it in South Africa. I knew that I would need to pivot in order to utilize my transferable skills in ways that still influenced, inspired, challenged health professionals to reach for more in their careers. And that's why I started Life Beyond Clinical Practice. Honestly, 2 years later, the podcast has reached almost 7,000 downloads, close to 5,000 listeners in over 50 countries. Now, you ask me if I imagined whether that was possible 2 years ago? No, I just started. I didn't know where it would go, if it would even go anywhere. But I just knew that I had a purpose to fulfill. I knew that there was a message that needed to be spoken. I needed to create space for these conversations. I needed to normalize conversations around career pivoting, but not just normalize conversations. Give people the tools, strategies, and resources they need to move past their stuck points and create careers that truly align with who they are and what they want out of life. If you want to reach your highest potential, you have to make an aligned pivot. What do I mean by that? Does your pivot align with who you are as a person, with the phase of life you're in, with what you want out of life, with what you're good at, with the kinds of things you want to do, the nature of the work that brings you the most joy? Now, I understand that you may not have answers to all of these questions, which is exactly why I created the Pivot Crash Course, is to help you move past doubt, uncertainty, a lack of clarity, really dig into your why, dig into your values, understand the kind of work that lights you up, understand how to build a purpose-driven career, purpose-centered career, and equip you with that knowledge and tools to then launch a purposeful pivot path in 2026. So if you want to sign up for this special cohort, yes, it's a special cohort because I was only launching this in 2026. But because of the 2-year celebration and the Pivot Roundtable Summit, I decided to do a much smaller VIP Pivot Crash Course, just 10 people. I will work with one-on-one for 6 weeks to develop your pivot plan. So I invite you to sign up for the Pivot Crash Course and join me in creating your next reality, in building a life and legacy that makes a difference to organizations, people, and spaces that need your expertise. Until next time, goodbye.